on this computer. And you probably got a notice that says we're recording.
Yeah, got it.
So welcome, everybody. This is Alan Pollock, Delta Investment Group. I have some guests with me, and this is actually a perfect time. This is revision number 27, I'm sorry to tell you that, of the Delta working the numbers and price point calculator. This was originally done, I'll give you the short story of it, which was Nick Vertucci is a guru, very well-known guru in Southern California. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I went to a whole weekend with him. Started on Saturday, Sunday. By Sunday afternoon, we were on a bus going to properties in San Diego that were going to be purchased for rehab and resale. And because of that, they give you a clipboard. It's got a list of things on it. It's like a 3-page list. You're supposed to inspect the property. What does it need? Windows, doors, roof. Look at the flashings. Look at the landscape. How old is the pool equipment? 3 pages of physical figuring it out. Sunday morning, we get back together and they say, well, what did you learn? Now, this is a group of about 200 people in a ballroom in San Diego that have everybody's hand is up. What did you come up? So the guy gets up on the stage and said, well, there's a lot of things going on, but in general, they're all going to need something. And then you got to figure out the price. And then so the next hour or so, they're talking about how to figure out what this thing is supposed to happen. And so after that, I'm going to shorten it up here, about a week later, I say, why do they make it so difficult? Why don't we just put it into a spreadsheet? So I start working on the spreadsheet 26 revisions ago. And now it's revision 27, which is awesome. And I actually met with Nick and had the CD on it. I said, wouldn't it be great, Nick, if you gave away the CD with this Excel on it to say, now that you did all this work on Saturday to go through the bus tour and check off all the things you need and figure out what the prices are and how much you're going to make on it, blah, blah, why don't you give them a going away present? And they'll think that you're the guru. Well, he bought into it, but here was the tricker. I don't know if that's a word. And he brings in his manager, John, I think was his name. I don't remember. And he says, John Allen was on the thing, and he came up with this awesome thing. And I just went through it, and it's on the money. We want to give this away. And John says, no way. Not no way like good thing. He says, no way ain't going to happen. And the reason for that John said is, if you give that away, they don't need you anymore. They're not going to buy your uplift. They're not going to spend another $5,000 with you so that you can tell them what's on the CD. Not going to happen. So in the meantime, I didn't give away any publishing rights. Nick didn't do it, and here it is. So with that, we're going to try to keep this down to about 45 minutes. And there's this instruction page that was included as a PDF. Of course, we have a confidential please and a disclosure, all that stuff. This was also in our gold training program with the findmealdealsnow.com bronze, and then a lift to the gold, we gave it away. And here's all kind of the instructions of what this is. The reason I'm going at the beginning of the instruction page is so that when we get to the actual product, you'll have some visual of what this is. And we've given it a lot of color coordination. We can read through that, but let's kind of move through what the first page of the instruction is. Can you see that okay, L1? Say, yep. Okay. So we broke it down into basically 4 sections. The top section is about the property. The second page here is how much to offer with the variables and the hard money lending. HML stands for hard money lending, if you need a lender. And then number 3 is all the rehab line items with variables. We're going to get to that. And then at the very bottom, section number 4 is going to be what is your net offer based on those variables that you can change with one button. And from there, it will change all the numbers along with it. I'm happy to say that with a lot of, what do you want to call it? Insight, not insight, but feedback, that's the word, from our customers that use this. I have a CPA who still uses this. And I say, you're a CPA, you know more about numbers than I do. He says, I can't make it any better. And we have a testimonial from him. In fact, it's one of our success stories about the before and after. And it was amazing how close we are. I'm able to say that we are often within pennies of the dollar of the square foot, not of the purchase price, not of the acquisition price, not of the sale price, but in terms of the metric, it's pennies on the square foot going in and coming out. That's pretty tight numbers. Call it 1%, if you will. So with that, we're going to break it down. The first section is going to be about the address. This includes a situation. Why are they selling? Rooms. We're going to touch base on this and each one of these sections. Just want to let you know that you can literally go through this instruction sheet and start from the beginning. You can't break it. It's a protected spreadsheet. You get the password if you want to change anything. I recommend you just save one copy and then make copies of that for everything else and always have one standard non-touched copy. In addition to that, we call the section number 2 is actually how much to offer. And this is really the engine that gives you, I don't know how many 100 variables, but you'll figure that out. If you've got a finance partner, you can split it up into whether or not you're keeping 100% of the deal or if you're giving away 50% of the deal or any other portion of the percentage for somebody who's going to put up the gap money. Gap money is the money you need between closing the deal, finishing the project, and what you might be borrowing. That's generally referred to as the gap. It's a good name for it. We get down to some additional features of section number 2, because that's really the engine. When you get down to, this is a segue of it. Oh, hard money. We also include a little block, it's in green, of how much you can borrow, what it's going to cost you for points, what it's going to cost you as an ongoing percentage based on your hold period. And then we'll annualize it for you and calculate that load into or deduct from your gross profit. So when you're looking at what's being offered by some of the investors, when they'll say you can buy it for 500 and you could sell it for 700, you're going to make $200,000. And that's not right. That's a gross profit. Now you got to take out your expenses, your hold, your commissions, your insurance, your tax, your escrow, your title. Oftentimes, when they give you that spread and you're working with people in the industry, then you just have to be aware of whether it's gross or net. And we do talk about that. Then you've got the line items if you want to go that way. We've actually, since we did this original instruction sheet, have added not only adding square footage, if you want to go that way, but also using a bulk number, just in case you don't want to go through the lines of it the first look. Just throw in a bulk number. It'll tell you what the difference is. It'll tell you what the dollars per or pennies to dollars of the square foot and all of those metrics. And then at the very bottom of the spreadsheet, which we'll get to in about 60 seconds, this gives us really, really, really tight numbers. So we use what's called conservative if it's going to be more than, say, 2 or 3 or 4 months. Aggressive might be in a shorter hold time. What's the benefit of that? If you're looking at a fast flip versus a long hold, it's going to cost you a lot more money to hold it. We call that conservative versus aggressive. Cosmetic might be another term that you use for aggressive, and conservative might be one where you've got to replace the foundation, the roof, all the other heavy lifting. I usually use 6 months as the difference between aggressive and conservative. If you can buy it and flip it in 6 months, that's pretty aggressive. And if it's going to take you longer than 6 months, beyond, call whatever it is, then I would put that in the conservative, and you'd want to know what that is. The other unique thing about this, and I learned this from a lot of the gurus, is for us, we use the rule of 72. We include that as well. For those that are know the true meaning of the rule of 72, not that one, but the rule of 72, what came from Einstein, who basically said, if you invest at 10% per year, compounded, you will double your money in 7.2 years. And conversely, if you invest at 7.2%, you will double your investment in 10 years. That is the mathematical equation of the rule of 72. Ours is a little bit different. Ours usually comes out to 72 because of the 10% profit that we load at the beginning, 8 to 12% for the rehab, and 6 to 8% for the hold. That comes out to 72. If you're between 70 and 75, that's the general number. If you're a wholesaler, you may have to go below 70 for the extra 2, 3, whatever your spread is. But the rehab experts will virtually go anything between 70, 75, or you might hear 85 less rehab. Do the numbers. What's 10% less 85? 70, 75. And I think that's all we have in the instruction sheet. So if we're ready, let's go and do some hard numbers. Let me make sure that the screen changed. Okay. And you see an Excel. Okay, getting nods there. So this is one I actually did just yesterday. And again, don't get crazy with the numbers. You can't break it. This is really about plug and play. What if? Just keep that in mind. Once you do one or two of these things, you can do one of these for every property in about 7 minutes. In fact, we'll even do a brand new one. But this is kind of the worksheet that I just did yesterday. And I'll just start at the top. How are we doing for time? We're about 20 minutes after. So before I get, yes, let's just do it this way. So the first thing I always want to know is, why are they selling? Now, whether I was a listing agent, whether or not I was a buying agent, whether or not I was a wholesaler, a rehabber, an REO agent, I can't believe how many people don't know why they're selling. And you can either start at that point, or you can waste all your time. I encourage you to always, always, always ask, why are you selling? It's just a conversation. If they don't want to share it, that's okay. But for us in the non-retail value add business, that's like 99% of whether or not you're going to do the deal right then and there. So this happens to be a tired landlord. The situation, I put in the address here. Let me just show you. I think it'll work. Yeah. So here's the address. For those of you who are not familiar with Excel, or feel that it's way over your head, this is going to make you an expert overnight. So just plug in 3. Oh, how many bedrooms? 3. How many bathrooms? 2. Are there any halves or quarter? 0. What's your proposed hold time? And you can even put in here what you expect to happen during that window of time, so that you kind of know what the stages are virtually by 30-day increments. It's just kind of a model or a schedule of what you'd like to do. Now, granted, this didn't come out to exactly 6, but you can change that any way you want. This is not a protected portion of the spreadsheet. Personally, I would just leave that alone unless it's a very, very fast or a very long timeline. If it was going to be something like 2 months, I might want to break this timeline down by the week. If it's going to be 12 months, I might break this down by 60 days and say, okay, the contractor is going to be in 60 days. It's going to take us 60 days to close. It's going to take us 30 to 30 days to purchase the property. So just some very budgetary concepts. Always good to put the year in. You'll see that there are a lot of little red numbers. All those red numbers are variables you can change. So by the color code, I could change the year. I could change this from a 4 month to a 6 months. The only thing that should be changing here is, well, a lot changed right away. You see, everything changed, but certainly based on what the cost of my financing is going to be a big change. I don't know. I was going to go smaller, but it's going to be hard to read. But if I just change this back to 4, watch what happens, all the green stuff. 4. And you can see everything changed as well as that. Kind of moving on, this little red section here. Well, here, let's go back to the most important thing is what is their ask price or list price, and what is the ARV? In fact, the most important thing out of all this conversation has to be the ARV. You're not going to buy something that's going to be underwater. You're not going to spend any time doing that. You're going to just move on. You know, we're 1 out of 10. The famous quote from Zig Ziglar, for you, those of you who were born in the last century, Zig Ziglar was the most famous sales guru guy in the world. He is, I think he passed away, I don't know, probably about 2015. Jim and I, my partner, we saw him at the Honda Center with his daughter, and I think it was 92 at the time. But Zig Ziglar was from Yazoo, Mississippi, and that's the way he would talk. And he would say in his famous words, if you know that you close 1 out of 10, get 9 out of the way as fast as possible. And I'll tell you, that is the salesman's guru. That's it. So with that, you're not going to do anything unless you know what the ARV is, after repair value. That's a broad industrial term or industry term. Everybody knows what that is. If I was to change this right now from $649 to $625,000, hold your seats. Bang, everything changes by just that one variable. So you go out to the property and you say, you know what? I think I could get 649,000. Oops, what was that? Oh, it's telling me I was in a cell. By the way, if you try to type something in a cell that's protected, you're going to get hey, wait a minute, you can't change something that's under protection. So when I say that you can't break it, you'll get a little naughty sound, but you didn't break it. So you go out to the property and you say, you know what? I think I can get 649. And you do that, and it makes all the change. The neat thing about this, if you say, well, I don't know if it's between 625 and 649 or 650, right here, you can add whatever your value add additions would be. So you go out to the property and say, well, it's 625, but you know what? If I put in hard floors instead of carpet, I might be able to get an extra 1 point. I might be able to get an extra 2 points. If I go out there and I put in new landscaping, I might get an extra 3 points. And you know what? If I actually go out there and I put on and take off the old roof and put on a tile roof, I bet I could get a lift of 4%. And it'll give you that ARV based on those nominal increases of, you pick it out. We typically start with 1, 2, and 3. Some of my clients go here and they'll put in anything from 5, 10 to 15%. And you can see that the numbers accelerate based on that value add by that, whatever the value add percentage is. That way you don't have to change all your list numbers. It's like pretty easy. So far, I'm getting lots of heads that are saying yes, yes, yes. So now the next thing is, I hope we're okay with that. I could spend a whole hour there, but we're not doing that. So again, staying on schedule here. I got about 20 minutes left, whatever. This is the engine. This green section right here, which is how much to offer. Now it's got a lot of crunching going on. Again, red numbers are typically the ones you can change if it's in bold. If it's not in bold, you can't change it. It's going to be a calculation to flag you made a change. So even though most of it's going to be in black print, there is this occasion where you're going to say, I made a change. What did it do? So in this case, by the way, for those of you who actually know Nick Vertucci, these were in the parentheses. These were the target numbers that he has in his program. So we use that as a baseline metric based on what he had versus what we use in a dynamic change based on the numbers. Hope I'm not going too fast. So this is 74. It's not going to, oh, it shouldn't let me change that. Nope, can't change that. It's calculation. We always start with, what did I say? The rule of 72. Always park 10% at the beginning for yourself, whether you're using money, hard money, private money, where you're paying for financing. If you're using cash, you can do whatever you want. But my point would be always start with a 10% load up front. Don't wait for the bottom. You get paid first, not last. Now, the reason that I start with 10% is because that's our rule of 72, and because it's an easy number, I can multiply by 10. Zeros are great. By the way, the reason that we use 9% in aggressive is because it's a shorter hold time. You're probably going to recoup about 1% of insurance, fire insurance, taxes. There's all kinds of things that are more front-ended than back-ended. But we could change that number and say, nope, Alan, I got to make 12% and I got to make 10%. And then if I'm using private money, I can go down a little bit and I'll use 9 and 10. Change them any way you want. And again, it's a what if concept. You can't break it. Then the other thing that we said, what was that? Oh, the rehab is between 8 and 12%. So if I just kind of rounded that off to 10%, 8% for cosmetic, 12% with an empty pool. We can talk about some of those other line level items that we have great basics for. In other words, vinyl windows, dual plane UV vinyl, say it's $695 on average for a window. And you say, well, it's a $5 million house. I can't put in $695 windows. I got to put in $1,000 windows. Not a problem. Go in there, change the line, and it'll all calculate out. We generally load it by, as I mentioned, 6 to 8%. In this case, I came out to 6.6%. I was doing this for a client, and we kind of just split the difference. If we go here, it tells you what your total load of the ARV is. You don't have to calculate it. 25%. Let me do the math. ARV 100% plus 25% load, 74.2%. By the way, it already told you that right there. The little red button will tell you what your percentage is to the ARV. It'll tell you what your net projected profit is in a dollar amount. It will then say, are you splitting the profit with anybody? This number right here is your hold period, number 4. We put that up at the top. The 50% is if you're using a gap partner. Again, a gap partner puts up the equity. If you're doing this and you don't have a penny, and you get somebody that said, well, you do all the work, L1, and I'll put up the money, but I want half the profit. Sometimes you may have to go and give that person 60% of the profit. What does that leave for you? Leaves you a net profit of 25. They get 38. They're making 24.27% on their money by putting up the equity for this deal. If you're using the aggressive, in this case, a shorter period of time, you'll see that the dollar went down, the percentage went down. Oh, just a minute. I know why. It's because I only worked on a 9% profit. If we put in 10, sure enough, they make the same amount of money. That's the way it's supposed to work. 10 and 10, 9 and 9. If by chance you're using private money, how are we doing for time? Okay, we're going to keep going then. We got the signal to keep going. So,
Yes, we got this. Yep.
Okay. Oh, before I move on, the reason this was really cool, when we figured out that in Excel you could use buttons, this was like, wow, this like moving from the 20th century to the 21st century. So here's what these buttons do. If you say that you're going to use all these numbers, you'll say, well, how do I put that into a page when I got 4 different variables, but I only want to use one in terms of my presentation to my lender, to my partners? to my accountant. You can literally pick which one you're going to use. So as I mentioned, say for 6 months, that might be still under the aggressive. But some people might say, well, wait a minute, 6 months, it's going to cost me more money. I want to use conservative. By just placing this little button, when you get to the summary, it will take that line of the information and plug that into your summary. So you could literally print out 4 summaries: conservative cash, aggressive cash, hard money conservative, and hard money aggressive. It's only 4 pieces of paper, and now you can play with your pen and pencil and T-square and whatever else you want to use to figure out what numbers. So these little buttons tell us what we're going to use for our actual summary calculation. We'll get down to that in a minute. I apologize for going pretty fast. You probably are saying, well, I'm still up at the top. What's the address? Don't worry about it. There's a video, there's an instruction sheet, there's cheat sheets. You can't break it. That's what I want to get over to you. So down here is really cool, is in this little section here is all about the lender money. So for example, let's say you're getting a lender to say, I'll give you 70% of the ARV, including your cost of acquisition, your holding cost, your rehab cost, but it cannot exceed 70% of the after repair value. Some might say, I'll give you 70% of your acquisition. You may have to do it that way as well. The point would be at 70% of the ARV, which we said was, I think, 649, we were working, excuse me, you're then going to borrow $545,000, and of which, here's how much net you need to bring to close. It figures everything out for you. Well, I want to be careful about how much you need to close. This is the amount, not including escrow and title. If you want to do that, you would have to load that in. But typically what I usually get, if somebody's going to use the numbers, they go back up here where it says the profit load, and they say it's 10.5%. I want to load it a half a point for my cost of closing cost. So if I was, I'm sorry, let's go down here where it's conservative, it's hard money. If I would say that this has got to be 10.5%, no, that's not what I want to do. Leave it there. We'll talk about that later. My point would be is at this number, if I said that they would give me 75%, I don't have to come in with as much money. So I can go here for 70%, 80%. Some you can, based on your experience level, you'll get a lender who'll give you maybe up to 80%. They're going to charge you 2 points. That's an upfront number. That's the way the lender and the brokers make their money. You want to try to get that as low as possible. You might even be better off paying an extra half a point on your percentage. Instead of 8, pay 8.5%. But go over here and say, I got them to only get 1%. So it's less money up front. You can see what's happening. Look at all the numbers I'm changing from that original 70%. Now I'm down from, what was it, 90,000 to 28,000. If we went back, we'd put that number there. We'd say 2 points, and we'd say 8%. And sure enough, $93,000. If I take 1 point off, they get 1 point cost of closing. Oops, what did I do? 1.93. Oh, that didn't come out because I'm still only getting that much money. But the percentage and the LTV, LTV is going to change. I'm going to kind of speed through forward. I'm still okay with time. This right here, you'd have to put in, this is, see, it's a red number. You've got to go in, you got to go in and put in at least the square footage, because everything is based on dollars per square foot or pennies per square foot. You also have to put in what is the lot size. A lot of times you could, if this property was, say, 10,000 square feet in a neighborhood that had average of 7,800 square feet, you would put in the lot is 10,000 square feet. And because it's bigger than anybody else, I'm gonna make an extra $5,000. There's a lift to the value of the property. And by adding this dollar right here, it's specific to location, property, value add over and above the immediate community. When I say immediate community, that's within the gate guard, the gates, closing gates. It's on the same side of the road. You can't look, especially in places like Los Angeles or San Diego or any populous area, the same price on the east side as the west side. My favorite example is Mulholland. For those of you who know Los Angeles, Mulholland is what separates the basin of Los Angeles to what's called the Valley. That would include Van Nuys and Sherman Oaks, as opposed to Beverly Hills and Santa Monica. We had a property up on Mulholland, and the difference between being on the west side of Mulholland, we're talking about between 50 and 100 feet in a straight line between being on the north side or being on the south side of Mulholland, is $1 million. Why is that? Because when you are on the south side of Mulholland, your view is Beverly Hills, Bel Air, Venice, Santa Monica, Los Angeles skyline. You go 100 feet to the north. Where are you? You're still in a very affluent area. And what you're looking at is south of the border into Encino, Van Nuys, Woodland Hills, Studio City. Not exactly. So knowing exactly whether you're on this side of the street or that side of the street could be the difference of $1 million. So if somebody gave me a comp on Mulholland, is it on the even numbers or the odd numbers? It's $1 million difference. Speed forward with this. These are all line items. We can go through each one, but you'll see the system will populate the square footage based on what you're putting in here. So when you're looking at the exterior, you have to know what's on the outside of the building, not the lot, not the gross area, including the garage, unless you're going to include that. But most of these numbers won't really change a lot. Yes, they will based on quality, based on numbers. If I was putting in 3 bathrooms at $3,000 a bathroom, they would change. If I was putting in 2.5, it would change. If I was putting in windows, it was 8 windows at $695. Well, I can get them for $595. You would make those changes. In addition to that, this plus or minus would be based on what your contractors are telling you. So you would say, L1, for the 8 windows, can you beat it by I'm at 4760, and you say, you know what, Alan, I can save you $1,000. Boom. Right then and there, you can take your contractor change based on and not touch your budget. Leave your budget alone so that you can use that as a static number. Static means the same, and compare them to each person. Oh, by the way, I have somebody else. In fact, the seller is going to credit me $500. And if you did that, it would go down. So the adjustments are plus or minus. This column here is only pluses. That's why it's up here, pluses. And this is only minuses. So you can compare them based on savings, or you go here and you say the doors. I got a quote from my contractor. He says it's going to cost me $2,000, $1,000 for each door. Okay, I'm going to put in an extra $1,000. And sure enough, the budget loaded for what I had for budget and what my contractor said. And if somebody gave you a credit, or they'd say, it's going to cost you an extra $250 if you put on special hardware. It will give you net numbers. For those of you who are not familiar with the term net, it's taking the gross minus this, minus that, for what it is out of pocket when you say, okay, here's what I'm paying you. Here's the interesting thing. I'm going to keep it down to just probably another 10 minutes. Hang on there. In version 24 or so, we added this thing called bulk calculation. Coolest thing I've ever done. Well, and what bulk calculation does is, so right now it's telling me, go here, take the bulk. I love these buttons. It's telling me that I'm at $110,000 based on the things I did by the lines. But you know what? I'm not going to spend all that time if I'm going to kick the tire today. I'm going to suggest, I'm going to use Alan's number of approximately 10% of the rehab. Let's just say it's 604 of the ARV. So it's $649,000. Let's use 650. 10% of that would be 65,000. That's what's going to calculate. And it's going to tell me based on my difference, I'm 70% of what the line item costs would be. So you can just go here and you say, I want all, watch these numbers down here, kaboom, bang. I'm using this bulk number instead of the line numbers. And it's telling me I'm right at 10%, duh. And if I was at another number, say, I want to give myself a little more cushion, pick a number, say 75,000. Now I'm at 11.6%. What did we say? It's typically going to be between 8 and 12%. Duh. You know, now if you had foundation, roof, empty pool, water damage, mold, putting up a second story. Oh, putting up a second story. I think we'll do that. Let's see. Let's put up a second story here. Let's put in, I'm going to say here, other, and I'm going to say second story or ADU. How about an ADU? Let's throw an ADU on here. How much is an ADU going to cost me? An ADU is going to cost you, how many square feet? 250 square feet ADU, and it's going to cost me $200 per an ADU. And here I have in here such as second story extra features. I'll change it ADU. And here is the really cool part. We're going to get to that before we close. By adding on that $250 of livable space, shouldn't I get paid for that? The answer is typically yes. By just doing this one little check mark that says add square foot, watch what happens. The square footage goes up. The dollar per square foot adjusts. Everything adjusts, including your net profit and your deduction and your relative dollar to the ARV, down to the pennies on the square foot. I got to fast forward because I'll spend a whole hour helping people figure out how much our appliance is. Always, always, always throw in a cushion. Typically a 10% cushion, and you just throw in a dollar amount. You can make it anything you want. I'll throw in 5,000. It's a 6.7% cushion, and just throw something in there. The worst thing that can happen is that you don't spend it. Down here in section number, the net offer section, a lot of stuff going on up at the top. This gives you the relative, here's all of our adjustments. Look at that, the $250 that we had as the credit. We're going to take that. The extra $5,000 for the added lot value, we're going to add that back in. I'm going to give that $5,000 to the seller because I'm going to be making another $20,000 on the value add, whatever way you adjust that or associate with that. Our target is typically 67. This is based on the default. The defaults were made for a special program like Nick Vertucci or any of the other teaching gurus. We can plug in what their baseline static number is for what their target discount is. But look what happened here. 73, 74, 70 for financing, and 71 for financing. We changed a lot of numbers in there. We went up, we went down, we changed. But look at that. And one of the reasons that we do it by 1% up at the top between aggressive and conservative is because we use the rule of 1%. I always share, and many of you that are on today love this story when I say, would you walk away from a deal if you thought you'd make 10% and you only made 9%? We call it, are you in the business? And the reason we do that is because for the most part, somebody's always going to challenge me on it. Said, no, I got to make 10%. Let me tell you, you're not in the business, because if you would walk away from 1% of your I'm sorry, yeah, 1% of the difference in the price point, you're not in the business. And by the way, 1% of the price point comes out to a 10% over your rehab. So if you said your rehab was going, because I changed this from 65 to 75,000, right? 65 to 75,000. I went from 65,000, 65,000 to 75,000. Guess what? That's only 1 point. Would you walk away from making 9% when you thought you'd make 10? If you're in the business, 99%, the answer is going to be no. I'll take the 9%, because for me to spend the amount of time to go out and find another one at 10 would suck up that 1% overnight. So my point is that by knowing that you're still always within this general metrics is going to keep you safe. You can't change the way it calculates. And the reason for that is because it calculates to the penny, the dollar per square foot. Right there is your dollar per square foot. Your ARV is going to be $319.70 per square foot on your ARV, and that would be based on a $649 price. You will be, if they're asking $553,888 on their list price, you'll be at 86.9% of their ask price. You'll be at 88% of their ask price. You'll be at, and one of the reasons, because we added the 5 and we took the 250 credit. So your target here is to certainly get as close to 90% or as close to their asking price. If you're someplace in the 60 cents, got to tell you, I don't think this is going to work for you. This is ideal for the 9 out of 10 deals. That's what this is built for. Remember, we changed up at the top the value add to 1, 2, and 3, or we changed it to 2, 3, and 4. Well, you don't have to go back up and change that again. It comes all the way to the bottom, and it says if you increase the value by 1% over the ARV, market's going up, interest rates coming down, whatever way you want to do it. I've never tried it to see if it works with negative numbers, but I'm going to do that. But it would tell you that your ARV is not going to be 649. With a 1% increase in value add, you'll be at 655, and then you'll be at 666 or 661. You get the idea. What it provides is the automatic numbers. Now, the good news would be is that if you knew that it was going to go up 1%, just 1%, because you're putting in laminate floors instead of carpet. I mean, they're very, very small. You're talking about pennies on the dollar of your rehab. You'd be offering them $488,000 instead of $476. You'd be offering them $12,000 more because you're going to make an extra 1 point. That's the benefit of breaking down these cushions, because you want to get as high a number in there, what we call the confidence. Again, moving around a lot. This is the offer price divided by the ask price. Your offer prices, they want $553,000, and we're only going to be offering them $481. But if I knew I could get an extra 1%, I could offer them $488. So it's giving you that spread. What's my high? What's my low? By 1%. That's the magic of it. I was going to actually go into a live deal. I think we're going to save that and actually go to, I mean, this was as live as it was from yesterday. So it's a brand new to a client that we have. I was going to actually do a live one, but I spent way too much time instructing, and maybe we'll do a follow-up to say, okay, if you were on March the 1st, you already have all the basics. Plug the numbers in any way you want. I'm going to do one live, or you can even send me one in the chat box of one that you have. and let's go live with a live deal. So I'm willing to do another one. Any questions?
I have a few.
All right, I love it. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so the first thing, specifically to us, um, we will be using a lot of, I would say, some gap funding, some private partners with hard money. So when it comes to the gap partner, let's say I saw that, let's say you have it where it'll show how much money that they will come out. Can you show that again? Like they will come out of that the gap partner
Right.
would put into the deal.
Right. So right here,
Hmm.
great question, because most people that are in this phase of it are not the millionaires who say, I don't care how much money I win or lose. Here's your money, go away. Oh, come on. I want to show you the numbers, pennies to the square foot.
Yes,
That's what I'm
sir.
going to say to them. They say, what do you mean pennies to the square foot? You're going to see that everything evolves to pennies on the square foot. So right here, the default is at 50. If I
Okay.
had a partner who would put up $93,456 at 70%, you're going to go and get a non-recourse loan for 70%. You're going to pay the, I'm going to even change it. Let's load it up here. 2% at an 8% interest rate for 4 months. That guy will get 20% return on his investment annualized. It even says
Okay.
here, gap partner ROI. You don't have to get out your calculator. Plug in your general numbers and then play with this number. And if they say,
Okay.
you know what, I've got to get 25% return on my money. Oh, not a problem. Will you take 24.53?
Okay.
Changing this. Now, if you are putting up, I hope that answered your question.
I'm sorry. Can you? I missed where you clicking. Are you
Yeah,
clicking
right
the
here,
red?
the
Oh,
red,
okay.
it says
Okay.
gap partner percent annually.
Got you.
Here's
Okay.
gap partner ROI. It's a 4-month hold. I can't figure out how to put that in there unless I make it really small. But
Well, that's
if
fine.
they
I see it.
said, but if they said to you, I got a better way. What if they said, "Oh, you know what? I'll put up the money. I only need 12%. Annualize my return. In fact, help me out here. I want to flip it twice per year. Well, you
Okay.
want to flip it twice per year? Let me do this. Let's say it's a 6-month hold. I'm going to go up here and change my hold time to 6.
Hmm.
You're going to see this change to 6. You're going to say, oh, at 60%, I only at 50%. He's at 13. I don't even have to give him 50%. I can give him 45% and I'll be at 12. In fact, L1, I know you only need 12% ROI annualized. Why don't I give you 12.26%? He's going to think
Okay.
he's going to think he stole from you.
Right.
No, I mean, I'm making
Right.
fun of it, but that's
Oh.
that's how that's how fast you can change a variable based on gap investor. If you are putting up your own money, guess what? You're 100% of your gap money. You are going
Gotcha.
to put up the 93,000. You're going to keep the $64,900, and you're going to make 27 and a, oh, my mistake. If we use borrow money, you're going to only make 64,000, but you get
Right.
28% because we're borrowing the money from our lender as our partner.
Okay.
So your percentage goes up. Why is that? Let me give you the number of it. It's because the money at 8% is less than the 12%.
Mhm.
That's why people get a mortgage.
Right.
They can get more money from the lender than if they took it out of their retirement account that's
And-
making them 10%. Go and borrow the mortgage from your lender at 5%.
Right.
You're
Mhm.
making 5% off of the lender's money. That's really the way I look at it.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. And the other question is, let's say that I'm looking at a property and I don't know the price, but I'm looking at, I'm running the numbers and I'm doing the ARV.
Yeah.
And like there's a property that I have that attorney sent me, and we don't have a price yet, but she sent it to me and I'm running the numbers, so I don't actually have a price yet. it has to go through some court stuff.
Right.
So how can I reverse engineer it that way to where I can say, hey, I know the ARV is this. This is where I need to. This is where my purchase price should be, and I can use that.
Exactly. That's actually why we call the ARV after repair value, because so you don't know what the purchase price is yet,
No,
and you don't even know the ARV yet.
no. Well, I know the ARV because I can kind of look at I can run my comps. I'll have the ARV, but I don't know what the purchase price is. I want to know where I need to purchase it at
Yeah.
without knowing.
So actually, that's what all of this is right here is going to give you
Okay.
your net purchase price. But in the event you want to cushion it a little bit, then I personally would go up here and instead of 649, you might want to say that just give your cushion there. Say, oh, it's not going to, I'm only going to be 625 or whatever. You only have to change one number. And because you got the buttons, don't worry about all the line items because you're not using the line items. That's only if you want to get down to, as I say, the pennies on the dollar. But if you're okay with working with the dollars on, dollar per square foot instead of pennies on the square foot, it tells you right here, again, 74, 75, 70.
Got you.
You
Oh,
can make
it's
that
right there. Yeah.
any number you want. It's a variable of the bulk number off of the ARV.
Got you.
And
Okay.
relative to your relative cost. So I like where you're going with that because if it was a probate, great,
Yeah, actually, that's what this one is, a probate.
great. If it's a probate, you know that you have to add 5% to the lowest to the next price. It's almost like an auction, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That overbid.
right. So here's what I would do. I would go here to this closing and commission load. Right there, 8% is by the experts. 10% is by the experts. The other thing was 67. What they do is they play with these two numbers. Again, you can't change that number, but you can change this number and say, I'll tell you what, if I've got to go to probate and I've got to spend an extra 5% because I'm the next guy to bid up, I would just make that 11.11%. Put in your add-on value into your load there. Make them all the same at the beginning if you can. If you don't want to, you're gonna. But guess what happens? Look at that, 69. You've got to lower your acquisition price by the cost of what you added into your load.
Got you.
Yeah,
Wow.
we're really top dollar focused with a bottom line objective.
That's amazing. And there was one more. If you can go back down to the bottom again.
Yeah.
Let's see. It was
Bulk number.
yeah, yeah. Just or go a little bit lower. I just wanna. There was another. There was another question I had.
Okay.
I'm trying to. Okay, yeah, right here. So, what we have here, just want to, oh yeah, so our cushion here. So I get that this could be like kind of our spread. This is the lowest to the highest based off
Correct.
of what we had here, right?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to, and this
Absolutely.
offer I asked is the percentage of how close I am to the asking price.
That's your
I just wanted to verify.
that's your
Okay,
confidence number.
okay, okay,
You'd be at
got you.
7 with the extra 5% we loaded at the top for the probate. We'd be at 78% of their ask price.
Got you. Okay.
If we had to be
And
at 100% of their ask price, most likely it's how should I say it? Yeah, you still have to load.
yeah,
You have to load the cost.
right. Okay.
You can't make
Okay.
this. You just reminded. You have another question? I'm going to take you someplace else.
No, go ahead. You got it.
Yeah, and then, which you, L1, have seen many, many times, it will take all of that information from the left, and it will give you a little summary cutout. So what some of you might have seen is I'll take this and I'll do a copy paste and I'll take all of that numbers. Here is your summary. We don't put the address in because I don't want people circumventing me. I don't want people stealing this from me. So if I have to share this with my lender, my partner, whoever it is, don't give them the address. If they know that much about the market, they're going to find out anyway. But they certainly don't need it on a golden platter. So here's what the summary be. By the way, we haven't touched base on all these tabs at the bottom. We're only in one tab. But this, you can do everything off of this page is why this is so important. But here's this summary of what we, based on all the changes. The ARV is 625. The rehab is $65,000. It comes out to $36.52 per square foot. Now, I have clients who say that's not enough. You got to spend $50 per square foot. Not a problem. I'll go back, change the 65,000 to 75,000. I'll be at 50 a foot. The minimum purchase price is going to be 414,000, and this is all off of those four buttons at the top. Do I have to go back and show that really quick? Just remember the 414. I'll go back and change it. I'm not going to break it, but this was really based on this was really based on my buttons up here. If I don't need the lender, I'll change that button to the top, and then I'll go back over to my summary. Oh, look what happened. If I don't have to borrow the money, I can pay $20,000 more for that property if I don't have to pay for the loan. That's what the buttons do at the top. You only have to change one button and everything else remembers they're going to change. The gross profit is $126,000. A resale cost, 11, because we got that extra 5% of the probate. Normally that would be between 6 and 8%. We didn't use the cost of funds. Just a minute. I noticed that as an error. I mean, I'm making fun of it now and say, oh, no, I have to go and borrow the money. I can't do this myself. Watch what happens in my summary. It loads the cost of the loan. It's going to load right here. Cost of funds. There it is. My cost of funds with the points for the period of the hold is $26,000. It was just zero because I was using cash. Now I'm using that, but that also lowered what my minimum purchase price. Everything else is all interactive. It's only going to give me a $57,000. Why? Because I got paid for financing. We got a 6-month hold. The gap partner at 100% of the money, because I'm the gap partner, is making 109% on their money. There's a funny number going on because I'm getting all of my money back for 100%. That's where that's getting a little funny. The return on investment of me putting up the $62,000 is 15.5%, annualized 31%. Remember we added that ADU? Remember we added the ADU and we said, yes, we're adding square footage. Well, shouldn't I get paid for that? Guess what happens? If you decide not to do the ADU, you go here, you put in 0, and guess what? You uncheck value add, and it gives me the net number based on 1780 square feet versus with the ADU, what did I say, 200 or was it 250? 250? I don't remember what it was. Doesn't matter. And then you say, okay, I'm going to add, here's a button, add square feet, don't add square feet. Add square feet, don't add square feet. See what it does? The ARV, dollar per square foot, with the square footage is $307 ARV average, ARV on the dollar per square foot if I add the ADU. If I don't add the ADU, it's $357. This is basically telling me don't spend the money to add the ADU because I'm going to make more money by the ARV dollar per square foot than if I add the square foot. And this doesn't take into consideration whether or not you're getting $1,000 for the ADU or you're getting $650, because guess what? You're not the owner. You sold this to a buyer. The buyer makes that money. You don't make the money. For you, it's an expense. For them, it's a profit. But just by one button, everything changes. All right, I probably wore you out. You have the instruction sheet, you have the cheat sheet, you have a sample of the Excel version 27. You have the rule of 72, and you also have the 1%. Are you in the business 1% rule? Hope that was helpful. I try to keep it. This is the first time I've gone over an hour. My goodness. Okay.
It doesn't matter. I could go another hour with this. This
I
is
know.
excellent.
And you know what? I think we'll set up. Thank you. I want to set up. Let's do this. You send me a property.
Mhm.
Okay. We'll get on a video and we'll start from scratch with your property. We'll
Okay.
take this one, we'll save it as is to your new property, and you can be the orchestrator. Say, change that,
Okay.
change that. And then by then, you'll be the expert.
Okay.
Hope that was helpful. I know we got other stuff going on. Talk to you later.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye.